right, let's see if I can get through this video. Okay, welcome back to our channel. This is me and my husband's vlogging channel if you guys are new here, but today I am filming our twin birth story. And I know what you're thinking, twins, you're holding one baby. The other one, Ruben, is with Justin because this guy wanted to be held really badly and I cannot hold both of them at the same time. They are getting too heavy now. But I filmed a birth vlog or birth story with Emma when I gave birth to her like 3 weeks after she was born, and the boys are 4 weeks old yesterday. So I really wanted to film this now while things are still kind of fresh in my mind from their birth. And so I can share with you guys of what their birth story really looked like and maybe details that you didn't see in our birth vlog that I still can remember right now when they're still all new and fresh and snuggly. By the way, this is Asher. He's so cuddly. He wants to be held like all the time. So with that being said, I'm just gonna start from the beginning and I'm gonna try and be as accurate as I possibly can because this is kind of hard already, just being postpartum with my memory to remember all the details, but I'm gonna go right into it. Okay, so the day before I gave birth, which was April 22nd, was actually really funny. My husband ended up being able to get us a new car that day, thank God. Literally the timing could not have been better, and I remember thinking that I wanted to go for a test drive that night to try out the new car before I gave birth because I hadn't gotten to drive it yet with everything going on with COVID. He had gone to get the car by himself and I wanted to test drive it before the babies were born, and we were going to do it that night, but I wasn't feeling good. I was having really bad lower back pain and contractions, but they were super far apart, super irregular, probably like anywhere from 5 to 9 minutes apart. I was, by the way, 36 weeks and 3 days on April 22nd. So I was still pretty early. I had a scheduled induction or scheduled C-section for the day that I was supposed to be turning 37 weeks or the day after, depending. And it was coming up like literally any day. So I was not anticipating anything to change from that. So I was having that lower back pain and contractions, but super inconsistent. And I was just in a lot of pain. I was very uncomfortable all that night. I was feeling a lot of pressure. And I told Justin, I don't want to test drive the car tonight because I don't feel good. I'm gonna go to bed early. So I put our youngest daughter at the time to bed. She's a year old, and I put her to bed around 7 o'clock with Justin, and we went to bed around, well, I went to bed around like 8 o'clock that night because I just wasn't feeling good. I didn't want to test drive the car. I didn't want to really do anything. So I took my pills, my prenatals and everything, and I tried to go to sleep. But I was having such a hard time sleeping that night. I felt super uncomfortable. I remember I fell asleep probably around like 9 or 10 and woke up at about 12:30 in the morning of the 23rd, and I was just not feeling so good. So I stayed up for a little bit. I started timing my contractions again. At that point, they were about 7 to 9 minutes apart still, so I was just like, this is the worst. I had inconsistent contractions my entire pregnancy, starting at around 26 to 28 weeks, so I was used to it, and they were starting to get different, but they still were so far apart that I was just completely convinced I was not in labor. I decided to just wait it out. So around midnight, I stayed up for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I fell back asleep. I'm forgetting the exact time that I woke up again. I wanna say it was around 3:30 in the morning. In pain again, same type of pain, and contractions were the same amount apart. Now they were anywhere from 5 to 9 minutes apart, but when they would come on, it felt different. I don't know how to describe it. Like I said, I've had contractions this entire pregnancy at this point, but these ones were hurting my lower back in a way that I could not sleep. I tried getting out the heating pad in the middle of the night. I tried doing a bunch of different positions, moving around, and I had been up at 12 o'clock, fallen back asleep, and it was 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and then it was around 5 o'clock in the morning, and I could not fall back asleep. I was in a lot of, like, I wouldn't even say pain, but just uncomfortable pressure. I felt pressure down there. I felt lower back pain. I felt those inconsistent contractions, and I just was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm hurting, and I think it's probably false labor, but I can't sleep. So I think at like 5:30 in the morning, I had a contraction app, and I'm gonna actually put the screenshots up of my contractions because I screenshotted them that morning at around 5:30 in the morning. I texted them to my 2 friends and said, like, I don't know what is going on. I don't know if I should go to the hospital because they're so irregular, but I'm feeling a lot of pain. And that was at like 5 o'clock in the morning that I sent them that text. So it was very shortly after that that I woke Justin up, my husband, and I said, I don't know what's going on. I'm in a lot of pain. I had also just passed a kidney stone, like not very long before that day. So I was kind of worried that maybe I was getting kidney stones again, because those always hurt in my lower back as well. And so I woke him up and I said, it's 5 or 5:30 in the morning, but I am in a lot of pain. I think just to be safe, I want to go to labor and delivery, and I want them to check me out because I don't feel good. I'd been up basically all night at that point, and I was just feeling super uncomfortable. So I woke Justin up. I told him, I'm probably gonna end up coming right back. Just keep Emma's baby monitor on. I'll probably be back by 7 in the morning because they're taking people pretty quickly in and out at the hospital right now because of COVID. So they don't want you in there for too long. So I woke him up. I told them I'm just gonna drive myself to the hospital really quick, have them check me out, and I'll be back by around 7 to 7:30. So that is exactly what I did. I got dressed really quick. I didn't even bring my hospital bag. I didn't bring anything. I didn't bring the vlog camera, which is crazy because if I thought I was in labor, I would have brought the vlog camera. I brought my phone, obviously, so I recorded a little bit on that when you go back and watch my birth vlog, but I didn't bring anything. I got dressed and I went out the door. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, like I was so tired. So I just basically threw on some clothes really quickly and left. And I got to the hospital. They put me in triage. I was having contractions still super inconsistently, but they put me down. They were asking me all the questions that they ask you at intake when you do your triage appointments, which I've had a lot of triage appointments because of twins and because they are sometimes not cooperative when they were in my belly. But I went in, they started asking me questions. They said, yeah, you're having contractions. They were actually a little bit closer together at that point, probably around 6 o'clock in the morning. I realized they, on the monitors, were maybe like 5 minutes apart, but not like super consistent again at the same time. And then all of a sudden on the contraction monitor, they started to get to 2 minutes apart, like really quickly. All of a sudden they were 2 minutes apart. And so they decided to check me really quick, and I was already dilated to a 5 or 6, she said. She's like, oh yeah, you're staying here, which is insane to me because I have given birth before twice. And with Emma, my daughter, I got an epidural when I was 4 centimeters dilated because I was in so much pain. And my only explanation for that is that I had just, like I said, passed a kidney stone a couple weeks prior, and that was like the most pain of my entire life, and it probably just did not even compare to the kidney stone pain, so I didn't realize how much pain my body was actually in. And she was like, you drove yourself here at 5 centimeters dilated? And I was like, apparently. They admitted me immediately. I started texting friends and family. I texted my best friend Kaylee because my mom was not in town yet because, again, this was so unexpected for me to go into labor on my own, to go relieve Justin at home so that he could come to the hospital before my C-section. They actually had to give me 1 or 2 shots of terbutaline because my body was progressing so quickly that they wanted to make sure my doctor had time to get there because I really wanted him to be the one to do our C-section. He did my daughter's, actually both of my daughters he delivered, so I wanted him to be there instead of the on-call doctor, so I was all for it. They gave me some terbutaline and it did slow the contractions back down to about 5 minutes apart, and Justin got there in time. So he got there when I was in triage, and they started checking everything out, getting everything ready. They did a last minute ultrasound because I wanted to make sure. The reason we were scheduled for a C-section for these guys was because baby A, who ended up being Reuben, was breech basically the entire pregnancy. And I wanted to make sure that he was still breech because if he was not, I wanted to try and give birth naturally, or vaginally, I'm sorry, vaginally. And I really wanted to have that, but unfortunately when they did the ultrasound that morning, he was still breech. And this guy, Asher, was also transverse, so it just wasn't a safe option. They also don't do, I think it's called an ESV when you're pregnant with twins. It's not considered safe. So they were like, no, he's still breech. We're doing a C-section because your body is progressing super quickly. I was probably at 6 or 7 centimeters by that point, and we wanted to not be rushed to do the C-section, and to the point where I was like screaming in pain because I didn't have any pain meds up until that point. They decided to just wait for my doctor, and I was handling the contractions surprisingly well. Again, just I think due to the kidney stones. So when I was at about 7 centimeters dilated is when they finally started wheeling me back for the C-section. So this part is harder to remember because I feel like it's where I started to get a little bit fuzzy, because that's when they gave me my spinal. So they wheeled me back for my C-section, and it looked a little bit different because the hospital is laid out a little differently right now for COVID. They wheeled me back to a little room, and then there's like a little surgery room and then like a patient waiting area. They had Justin wait while I went into the surgery room, and then after they had me prepped for surgery and things had started going, they let Justin come in. And I was so anxious, I was shaking. They gave me my spinal, and after that I got so nauseous. I remember the spinal made me instantly nauseous. I started throwing up and I couldn't feel like from my neck down. So it was just a really weird, I think I could feel my hands actually, so maybe it was just my chest down. It was a really weird feeling. I didn't like it. I started to feel like shaky and scared, but after I threw up, I actually felt better, and that's right when Justin came in, thankfully. So he came in, and if you guys didn't know this, our whole pregnancy we went without finding out the genders, so it was a surprise gender reveal for our twins during the C-section. So I was so excited once the nerves and the shaking and the vomiting had calmed down, and Justin and I were both crying just out of excitement. My doctor was telling everybody in the room, saying, do not say the gender, because he knew it was a surprise reveal, and he also knew that our request was that Justin be the one to tell me the gender instead of the doctor. So he made sure everyone knew that. When the baby A first came out, even, he said, don't anyone say it, let daddy say it first. So we didn't have a clear drape because they were out, but they pulled that little blue drape down when baby A, who was Ruben, came out. And I'm smiling so big because it's one of my favorite memories. I think I will never forget those moments. But Justin said, baby A is a boy, and I just instantly started crying. I was so excited. And 2 minutes later is when baby B came out. He was harder to get out. I felt like I was being shaken very violently is the only way I can describe it. Like I didn't feel pain, but my whole body was being shook around by them trying to get him out because of the position that he was in. But 2 minutes later, this guy came out and they pulled the curtain down, and Justin got to say baby B is a boy. And the sad part for me was that I didn't get to have them immediately like come on my chest. They showed them to me for literally like 2 seconds and then took them because they were early. Technically, our hospital, if they're born before 37 weeks, they're considered preemies. So they had 2 NICU teams in the hospital for each baby. So it was really crowded in there. But after a couple minutes, baby B, who is Asher actually, was fine, and they were able to hand him to me and Justin to hold. Ruben actually, I don't know if we talked about this yet, he had a hard time when he came out at first. He was also a lot smaller. He was 6 pounds, 2 ounces. So when they took him, he was having a hard time breathing. And I remember panicking a little bit because I saw him and he was crying, but he was grunting, I guess, which they said was not normal. So they had to give him some oxygen for probably 10 minutes. Before I got to see him. So that was a little bit scary. I hadn't experienced that with any of our other kids, so it was a little bit weird, but I did get to hold Asher while we waited, and then they finally were able to bring him over. He didn't have to go to the NICU, which was a huge relief. Honestly, it's an amazing relief that both babies did not have to go to the NICU and that both babies were past 6 pounds for being 36 weeks. My doctor was so impressed. He says, I just grow big babies, I guess, because if you didn't know, Emma was 9 pounds, 1 ounce. And so just big babies, I guess, on this side of the family. But we got so blessed and so lucky that they didn't need any NICU time. And after the surgery, they let Justin leave the surgery room with the boys for probably about 15 minutes while they finished cleaning me up, and then they rolled me out there with the boys. And we went into the little, I want to call it a waiting room, but it's like a little recovery area. And we were there for about 2 hours, I want to say. And we just got some bonding time with the boys while they did a bunch of stuff on the computer. They started giving their first breastfeeding session at that point. And they started talking to us about if we needed to supplement, whatever was going on at that point. That part is the part that's more hazy to me. I also still could not feel anything at that point except for from, like I said, my chest down probably. So every time I held the boys, I had to have Justin kind of stay pretty close just to keep an eye, make sure that I was able to hold them without having any issues. But it was like, it's probably one of the most magical days of my life. Like, I never thought my body would be able to go into labor on its own. I was so excited about that because I've only ever been induced and I've never gotten to have that feeling of what it feels like to actually go into labor. And I love that I was able to experience that this time. And I'm hoping that when we decide to have another baby in the future, that I'm able to have a VBAC and that I am able to go into labor on my own again, because it was such a really cool experience to be able to have that. And so I'm super thankful for that. And then after the recovery area, once we realized they were 2 boys, we sat there for about 2 hours deciding on baby names. And then we had picked the first names for each boy, but we had no idea on middle names. So we took about 3 more days after that deciding on what their middle names would be. And I just am so in love with these 2 little boys. Like, it's absolutely insane. I never pictured myself as being like a boy mom. I don't know why, probably just because we've had 2 girls in the past, but I could not be more excited to have 2 boys that are twins that are gonna have this like special bond for the rest of their lives. And they're the sweetest little boys. Like, honestly, I just adore them. I kind of want to bring Ruben in so that you guys can see them, even though you probably see them every day. But like I said, I have Asher. And that's honestly my main birth story. Like, I feel like I'm probably maybe forgetting like a couple details, but that's the stuff that sticks out to me the most, and the memories that I will forever have ingrained in my mind of the day that I went into labor. I'm so glad that we decided to vlog it and film, even though I didn't know I was in labor up until that point, because I get to look back and be like, oh yeah, you were in a lot of pain. Like, you were valid to go to the hospital and you did that. Like, that's amazing. And just remembering those moments of meeting the boys for the first time, finding out that they were boys, like I'm still shocked. I remember telling Justin, my least likely guess would be that they would be 2 boys. Like, I would first guess a boy and a girl, then 2 girls, then 2 boys. But I am so, like, I love it already. I love having boys already. It's been such a different and amazing experience. That is my birth story with my twins. Like, it was honestly a pretty smooth delivery for having gone into labor unexpectedly before our scheduled C-section, and that they didn't have to have NICU time, that they got to come home like within 2 days is amazing, and pretty, like, not, I don't know if I would say rare, but pretty like amazing that with twins that all of it went so smoothly and we didn't have any issues. And the only small bumps in the road we had were jaundice and weight gain. Like, it's just incredible. So that is my birth story. And before I end it, I want to show both of the boys. Okay, I guess Ruben is asleep and I don't want to wake him up because he had a rough night last night. So instead, I'm just going to end this here. And if you guys want to see both of the boys, we upload all the time on this channel. So there's plenty of videos of both of them. But with that being said, I'm going to end this, and thank you guys so much for watching, and share your stories below. I love reading everyone's birth stories. I love watching these videos because everyone's story is so different, and it's so exciting to hear how people bring their babies into this world. So, and yeah, that's it. We will talk to you guys again soon.